All right, so today, guys, here on Rub and Dirt, we've got Justin Day, number five placed national driver out of the USRA Tuners. Um, Nine feature wins. That's that's an impressive standpoint. Um, so, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, yeah. As you said, my name is Justin Day. I live in Lebanon, Missouri. That's South Central Missouri, and grew up here. And I haven't lived here all my life, but grew up here and been around racing a lot over the years. And this is actually my first year full time in a car. I've raced a modified and a tuner sporadically over the last couple of years, just 10 or 15 starts over 3 years. But this year is my first full year in a car.
All right. Now, why did you choose tuners? Because tuners aren't. When you hear tuners, nobody really knows what tuners are.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good question. A question that I am passionate about. Honestly, the tuners don't get much love. I mean, we get called bang bangers, and the people say, well, the fans leave when the four cylinders come on the track and all that kind of stuff. But that doesn't have to be the case. There's several reasons why I chose tuner. Number one is the rules package. The rules package specifically for USRA is outstanding. I think it's a perfect mix of trying to use a car that is pretty well stocked, but also allowing us to make it into a race car. And they race well. These cars, I mean, they've got plenty of horsepower, and they do race well. They're pretty even. There's some parity across the playing field, and so it makes for good racing. I love the USRA sanction. That's also goes into that. Being able to run for national points and being able to run at USRA tracks was a big deal to me. But obviously, there's an affordability level to this class that you don't find in others. I mean, if you're just talking about USRA sanctions, you at the bottom you've got the tuners, and you can build a top-notch tuner for around $4,000 and be able to run consistently and run towards the top. And so affordability, it plays a big part into that as well. And I would encourage people as they think about the tuners not to think of them as the scrubs or anything like that, because there are some really good racers in that tuner class. And sure, you've got your rookies, but you've got rookies in VMOT too. You've got rookies in stock car, and so you're going to have some issues no matter what class you're in. But I really have grown to love these cars. They're not as easy to drive as a lot of people think they are. Oh, it's just a four-cylinder. That's just like what you go to Walmart and get your groceries in. Well, that may be the case, but try to get it on a track that's slick and try to make it go forward without spinning and roasting the tires off. It's a lot harder than it seems.
Now, with the tuners, obviously, how do you feel about the central section of the tuners not being really represented?
Sure. Yeah, it's kind of one of those things. Obviously, I'm for the sanction. I've already said that. Here in the Missouri area, in the central area, it's kind of been a hodgepodge when it comes to four cylinders. You've got some tracks that call them Hornets. You got them that call them Sport Compacts. Maybe they're IMCA, maybe they're not. Then you've got front wheel drive or outlaw front wheel drive. And I'm of the opinion, now it's my opinion, obviously, and I've already said that I'm skewed towards USRA. I feel like a sanctioning body helps bring everything together and gives you multiple tracks to run at. I have nothing against IMCA. My car is actually pretty close to IMCA legal. I could change wheels and be able to run IMCA, change a couple other things and be able to run IMCA. I have nothing against that, but that's been mainly in North Missouri and north of Missouri. But as the USRA sanction has made its way south and even more further south now, the tuners are starting to catch on. And like I said, I'm a proponent of their rules package. You could talk about outlaw front wheel drives and that sort of thing, the SCDRA stuff that's out east and southeast, and that's fine and well. But I don't think most people want to spend $15,000 to $20,000 for a front wheel drive car when you can run consistently and towards the front for 4 to 6 around this area, and really have a top-notch car. I'd love to see the class come together. We had set out loosely this year to run for the national championship. We only had, when the season started here in my area, we only had one sanctioned track, which is Dallas County Speedway, which is where I ran for points this year. That's the only sanctioned tuner track within a good bit for me. So to start off the year, I had to travel to Kansas, to Humboldt. Their sanction have been for a few years. That's a 4-hour haul for me, almost 4 hours for me. And that would be the next closest USRA sanctioned track. And so when you start thinking about getting to your 20 races where you can start to drop your lowest finishes, if you only have one track to race at, that's really difficult to accomplish. And so whereas you look at guys in Iowa or Texas, and they can run Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night every week, and pick up those points and pick up those races pretty quick. And so I would like to see, obviously, more tracks be sanctioned in this area. I think it would help the class grow. I think it would bring continuity to the 4-cylinder class. And, if a guy goes from one track to another, he doesn't have to worry about changing rules and all that sort of thing. He doesn't have to worry about running against some outlaw car or something like that. He can pull up to the track knowing that, hey, I'm within the rules package here, and I can race, and I can expect to run towards the front. And so I would like to see more continuity with the class, because I think it's a great class. And I hope that that's what we see here over the next several months as tracks begin to put out the rule packages for next year.
Now, I know I'm looking forward to next year, but when you look back on your experience racing so far, how or why did you want to get into dirt track racing, knowing that it's not one of those super popular things that's out there? Not everybody's well known about it. I mean, obviously, we've got the USRA, we've got IMCA stuff. We're kind of all over the place, and our point system, it's not kind of unified. A lot of it's left up to how the tracks want to score things. And so for the average fan that's trying to get into it, what made you decide, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to turn the best laps I can?
Sure, yeah. Well, I grew up around racing. My dad raced starting in 96. I was just a little guy, 7 or 8 years old, something like that. And so he raced for a good 10 or 12 years before I went to college. And so racing and really, my dad has done everything motorsports. So, I grew up riding go-karts and all that kind of stuff. And so anything with a motor, I was interested in it. Like I said, I didn't get a chance to full-time race until this year. I made that happen. But I love cars. I love automobiles. So obviously there's a bent towards that. I love competition. I'm a big sports guy. Love competition. So when you can put those two together, I think there's obviously a lot of fun to be had there. But when it comes to dirt track racing, obviously, yeah, for sure. I've got family who lives out of state and stuff like that, and they're thinking, why in the world would you spend your Friday nights at a dusty, dirty, nasty track? And what happens if you catch on fire? Or what happens, all these kind of stuff. And they don't quite understand it. And to be honest, I mean, I think everybody is well aware that dirt track fans, they're a special breed. I mean, that they're passionate about it. You don't find a whole lot of half in, half out dirt track fans. They're usually just crazy about it, and sometimes it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday night for them, or Friday, Saturday, or they were playing their vacation around being able to go to a track, and that sort of thing. But one thing that I've come to learn is the camaraderie that you have at the track. That's one thing I appreciated about the place where I ran this year. Scotty Allen and his crew at Dallas County Speedway over in Urbana, Missouri. Scotty's a driver's promoter and owner. He does it right. He gets the cars in and out. I mean, being done by 10:30 every night and having a good track to race on, and being respectful for the drivers and having a good payout and being good to the fans. And it's that makes it easy when the owner and the promoter has done his part. Man, it really makes it easy to want to support that each and every week. And he has a loyal bunch because of that. So for somebody that's looking to get into, dirt track racing or something like that, I would say, hey, man, support your local track first. Go and watch and familiarize yourself with the cars and find out what your reasoning is behind wanting to race. Like if you want to be a demo derby driver, go be a demo derby driver. Don't go in circles and be a demo derby driver. But if you have an itch for competition, if you have an itch for going fast while you're controlled, man, give it a try. I love circle track racing, dirt track racing. I think there's a spot for a lot of people out there who may think, I don't know if I could do that. There's probably a spot for them in that realm somewhere.
Now, this was a question that got asked by one of my supporters for this whole ordeal. He asked, how come in a NASCAR video game, I think they said it was NASCAR Heat, their series that they do it, there's this dirt track series that they let you run, but how come there's a dirt road course? Would that be something that would maybe, if somebody was able to put that together, you think that would be something cool to try?
I'd never say never. I've never done any kind of road racing or anything like that. I mean, I guess there's a possibility for it. For our class, like if you're going to run a tuner on there, I mean, there would be, a BMOD is meant to go left. I mean, that's the way they're set up, and that sort of thing. Now, our cars are meant to go left too. We can set them up, and there's a whole lot more work in the suspension than people think. But it would be a whole lot easier to make ours a little more neutral to go right-hand and left-hand turns. And so, man, I'd never say never. I'd probably give it a try here and there. I'm pretty much bent on the sanction racing and chasing points and stuff like that. So, to take my regular car out there every week or something might be a little bit different. May have to build something special for that. But hey, you never say never, and maybe it'll come to fruition one day.
Now, I know you touched on the rules and the sanctioning. This year I have already talked to a couple of your other competitors. Unfortunately, we had audio issues and their audio wasn't recorded, so I've had to reschedule those again.
Okay.
But I talked to Justin, number 2 national driver. You finished just one feature win below him, and he was kind of explaining that this year the USRA said you can go in and use a tuning through the computer to open up the horsepower. Was that something that you knew going into this, or was this kind of a new thing to you too, and you were going to try it out?
Sure. No, it's been something that I think has been in the tuner rule package for a couple of years now, and certainly it makes a difference. Obviously, I can tell a car that's been tuned and a car that's not been tuned. We have a special tuner that we use out of Iowa, Garrett Jacobson and his crew at TBG Tuned, and a lot of the front running Chevy guys, whether it's a Cavalier, or I say GM, Cavalier or Sunfire or something like that. A lot of the front-running guys are TBG cars. My brother is a nationally sponsored car by Garrett and the TBG crew, and they do a great job. But yeah, it probably throws some people for a loop, or I've seen both sides. I've seen some people when they're getting introduced to the class, they think, oh my goodness, they're tuned. I mean, seriously, how can the average person do that? Well, the answer is there's not a whole lot of average people that can tune a computer, but you can do a mail order tune right online. I mean, you don't even have to call them. You can just tell them, hey, how your motor's set up, how your car's set up, and that sort of thing. And you can seriously send them the computer from your car as a core, and they'll send you a new computer. It's plug and play, and it's simple and easy. And that's one thing that's great about the rules package, because while we can't do a ton of tuning to the internals of the motor, a lot of the tunes, and there's codes that are written on them and that sort of thing that makes it fair and equal for everybody. You can tell, because you can't put a stock tune in a motor that's been built. It'll burn it up. You can't put a built tune in a stock motor. It'll burn it up too. So you really got to kind of play with that kind of stuff. And I would encourage people, if they're looking at tuning options and stuff, to get a hold of TBG. They could definitely help you. And if you're a Honda guy, Jason Waters Tuning out of Atlanta, they can help you with those as well. And So you've had some on one side that say, "Oh my goodness, you could never do that," and they get scared of it. But it's really not that big of a deal. And then there's some guys that overthink it. Obviously, well, I've got this, and I've got that, and I've got this, and I've got that. But at the end of the day, it's probably hurting you more than it's helping you, because the rules package that we have is pretty well to be stocked. So it sounds like it's this great, grand, and glorious thing, and we do find some horsepower out of the tuning and stuff that you can do that with, but it's not that big of a deal as some make it out to be.
Now, have you gotten the chance to race against any of these other top 5 nationally ranked drivers like Oliver Munson, Justin Converse, Brad Stahl, Grayson Wooten?
Yes, for sure. At the USRA Nationals here just at the beginning of the month of October at Lucas Oil Speedway, all five of us were there. We didn't have the showing that we wanted to. It was really a bummer kind of a deal, and the track was good, but not great for our class. I prefer a track that's black and dry slick from top to bottom. I feel like you have to learn to save your tires a little bit and not slide all over the place. But when the track's tacky and wet, you can get by with a little bit of that. To me, it makes the racing worse, and it brings all the cars right together rather than allowing it to be a driver's race. That's my opinion. And so the track was tacky, it was wet, it was hammer down. And boy, there was a lot of beating and banging that Friday or the Thursday night race. And unfortunately, I got together with one of those other top 5 guys and got a flat tire and a bent wheel with about 3 laps to go. I think we were running 5th. And so that ended our night. And then just based on the rough driving and that sort of thing, we made the decision not to go back Friday night. And that was kind of a bummer, because Nationals is what we worked towards all year. And I could have been there and even raced, obviously. I'd have had to come to a B main, which wouldn't have been an issue. But I'd have had to come from deep in a B main. And so, yeah, I did get to race with those guys, and obviously Oliver won Thursday night, Brad won Friday night. Both those guys were fast, and looking forward to be able to race with those guys again in the future.
Now, when Brad and I talked, this is kind of funny. There's an old racing term from whenever I was growing up called the track daddy, the guy that teaches all the youngins how to come about. So yeah. He definitely said that he felt as though he was in that range on the north side of it. Justin said he was on the south range of it. Is there anybody here in the central section that you run against that you feel as though you've given a lot of help to?
Sure. Not me, myself. I really don't. My brother, he runs these cars as well, and he actually had more feature. Well, I guess we ended up with the same feature wins this year, but he beat me head-to-head more than I beat him. And he owns Tuner Innovations by 20 here in central Missouri, and he builds professionally built tuners for the USRA sanction. He'll build some IMCA cars this year as well, but mainly bent towards the USRA sanction. And a lot of what I've learned about the tuner class has come from him. We differ on some things setup-wise. We like something a little bit different, and that sort of thing. And you're going to find that between driver to driver. But my new car this year is built by him. I trust him that much to build me a car, and I'll be racing with him. I don't think he's going to race weekly this coming year. He's going to help a lot of his customers more at the track this year. But if I'm looking at somebody who's taught me about these specific cars, it would be him. And so there's a lot of guys that we run with that are looking to him for advice and looking for him to set up and stuff like that. So, I mean, I can answer a few questions here and there, and I definitely know what makes my car go. I'm not ignorant to that sort of thing. But I don't really try to do the setup help and that sort of thing. I'm in more of the marketing side of the sport. I own Icon Graphics and Apparel, and so we wrap race cars. We do all sort of apparel, motorsports apparel and such like that. And so if guys need help, like looking for sponsors, making themselves marketable to partners and stuff like that, making their car look good, that's the side where I try to help people on, more than just on the racetrack kind of stuff. I leave that to my brother. He's he's got the time and the understanding and the knowledge to be able to help them on that side.
Now, this next question I have for you, this is one of my favorite questions. Out of everybody you race against, who do you feel is the biggest rival you have?
Sure, it's funny because it's my brother, and it's not that we're rivals. We race. And this is one thing that I mentioned at nationals, the little bit of rough driving and that sort of thing, and I call it rough driving because it's not what I'm used to. Like the guys that I race with weekly, I mean, we can race within inches of each other, and the guys that we ran with at Dallas County this year, we can run door to door and not beat each other up and not, flat tires and bent wheels and all that kind of stuff. And my brother, I know that I can race him within inches. I mean, we've rubbed a couple of times this year. We've bumped each other a couple of times this year, but never did we wreck each other. Never did we spin each other out and that sort of thing. And when you think about Dallas County, we had 11 races there this year. He won 7. I won 4. Of those 7 that he won, I ran second 6 times. There was 3 or 4 times that I was within a car length or even within a nose length of him. And so we ran close together all year. And so I hate to use the word rival necessarily, but I think when people know when we show up to the track that we're there to race, we're there to have fun, we're there to win, and the 2 and the 20 car are going to be towards the front and hopefully racing each other for the win.
Now, obviously, this next question I had down here for you, it's going to be Dallas County. But, and you've already explained it pretty much on why the owner and supporters there just do absolutely the best job they can do for you guys to bring it to life. And
sure.
you touched on your brother pretty much being one of those huge supporters for you as well. That's an amazing thing to hear, and that's what we're finding more and more in the dirt track community is there are families. You got Brad and Katie, they run together.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
You've got tons of people in here. I've got some friends that I do know, so I'm a little biased towards them. I will say that now. I'm a little biased towards the modifieds.
Sure.
Mainly because my buddy Tyler and Lee are up there.
Mm-hmm. Sure, yeah.
Always got to root for your hometown people. But nonetheless, what do you see yourself doing next year? Do you see yourself higher in the national standings, or do you see yourself still being about right there?
Sure. Yeah, a lot of that's going to depend on, of course, we're building a brand new car for this next year, and so hoping not to have any new car blues or anything like that. And I haven't formally decided what I'm going to do as far as if I'm going to chase points or run for the national deal again or not. My plan is to run weekly at Dallas County next year. I love the track. It's Friday nights. It's close to home. But I am going to get out and travel a little bit. The new track, Arrowhead Speedway in Concord, Oklahoma. Bryce Hall from USRA is the promoter down there. That's a 3-hour drive for me, but it's straight down I-44, and so that's a pretty simple drive. And so I'm probably going to run down there a little bit when I can, if Dallas County's off or if they start before or race after Dallas County's off. I really like Humboldt Speedway in Humboldt, Kansas. I've never had good luck there. I was leading the race there last year with a few laps to go and broke a rocker, and so ended up finishing 4th. So I'll probably try to get up there. And there's some rumor of some tracks here locally that might be joining the sanction, and so that would make it easier to get to that 20-race deal. But probably here in the next few weeks and months as the holidays get closer, we're going to sit down and look at what the year looks like it's going to unfold and see if we can make a run at that national championship again. I think it would be pretty cool, obviously to bring that home. 5th was better than I thought we were going to get to. We really had a great second half of the season and won several races in a row and several weeks in a row we were winning, and that really marched us towards the top pretty quick. But I really am of the opinion that you're going to have to race 25 to 30 times, because, I mean, you look at somebody like Ollie Monson, you know, I think he had 23 or 24 wins, you know, so he's dropping nights that are wins, you know, and so you got to go where the car counts are, because you get car count bonus, and you got to start in the back so you can get passing point bonus and all that kind of stuff, because that all makes a difference. And so it's really going to be determined by if we can get some more tracks around here that are sanctioned, so that we can start to search for those points a little bit more diligently.
Now, if there wasn't any kind of issues regarding anything as far as finding the car and the right setups, what class do you think you would most likely want to run?
Sure. Yeah. You know, here in our area, the USRA stock cars have really taken off the last couple of years, and it's probably my favorite class to watch. The parity, obviously the cars have a lot of horsepower, and trying to get them to hook up on a little 8-inch tire is difficult. But I love the mix of old and new technology that those cars have. I mean, they're still full frame, but yet they're on a little better shock. They got a quick change rear end, you know, and the rules on the motor is pretty open. Obviously there's some restrictions, but it's pretty open, and it's pretty much as much horsepower as you want to run, but you got to get it to hook up, you know. So, you know, I kicked around the idea of moving up to hobby stock this next year. Probably it's not going to happen. Maybe next year make a little bit of a progression, but if money was no worry, I'd probably find myself in a USRA stock car. I really like that class. It's still full frame, like I said, and it still looks like that old school muscle car, you know, and that sort of thing. And now that they're putting the new modern bodies on it and stuff like that, I think it's just really cool. They look good, and that's probably where I would land.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about it is, you know, the cars that we grew up looking at going, oh yeah, that's a classic looking car. Now the cars that we grew up driving have become those classic cars, and we're like,
yeah.
I remember I had that car when I was 16, 17 years old.
For sure.
Why is that being called a classic?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just means we're getting older. That's all it means, yeah.
On your experience with racing and your family racing, you know, do you think that helps you get an extra little edge over competition sometimes, your tracks?
Sure, yeah. I mean, just the experience, not necessarily me behind the wheel. I mean, like I said, this is just my first full year behind the wheel, but being put in situations, you know, obviously my dad is with me at the track every week. He hauls me to the track almost every week, is kind of the crew chief for both myself and my brother. It helps us in whatever ways that we can, what he can. You know, just watching him growing up racing, and knowing what it's like to. My dad and I are very similar in our driving styles. Very much a rhythm driver. Would much rather come from, you know, mid pack rather than being out front and leading laps. My brother is different. My brother has spent a lot of his career out front, and so he's used to that, and he'd rather be able to do that. And but for me, I really like being able to come from mid pack and that sort of thing, and I get a lot of that from my dad. And so, you know, bending his ear about rhythm and being able to watch other cars and not just looking at your own breather, you know, looking out front and watching what's going on and that sort of thing. So for sure I can lean on him, and any advice that he can give, he obviously helps along the way. And then just being around racing a lot and watching the tendencies of other cars and other drivers and getting to know them and that sort of thing. Obviously that helps when you're racing door to door each and every week, for sure.
Now, what is one unique thing about you and the way your family does business with racing out there on the track that you don't think too many people else do?
Yeah, you know,
like any kind of special traditions that you guys do, anything like that?
Sure. Yeah, no real special traditions or anything, but for us it is very family oriented. I mean, our families are with us, and that's no different than a lot of other people. Obviously, it's a family driven sport and spending time together as a family. But being able to race in the same class with my brother so close each and every week, that's obviously something that's a little unique. But when you think about it, for us, I mean, racing isn't the most important thing in my family's life, and so it's on down the line. My brother is a pastor of a church, and he's actually my pastor, and that's the most important thing to us is our relationship with God and what we do for Him. And so, like racing on Sundays and stuff like that, our Sundays are spent in church with our church family and worshiping God and stuff like that. And so that's unique in the fact that that's most important to us. Now, I'm not saying that doesn't happen for other people as well, but that's most important. And then secondary, obviously on down the line comes racing, and it's a way that we make friends and have camaraderie. And, we were at the Dallas County Banquet a couple of weeks ago, or last week, I guess it was, and just sitting down and talking with the guys, and obviously it's been a few weeks since we've been at the track together, and so just catching up with them, that's awesome, the camaraderie that you have with those guys as you build throughout the racing season. And so there's nothing too unique about us. We just try to have fun, spend time together as a family, and put racing in its proper perspective for us.
My last question for you, this has a variation to how people answer it, but what does racing mean to you the most?
Yeah. Honestly, racing for me, it's I've gotten more immersed in it over the past year and a half, working with the Icon, with the graphics and the apparel and stuff like that, and being able to help guys. And so it really has become more than just a hobby for me. It's the way I put food on the table for my family and that sort of thing. We don't do just racing, but a lot of our business is motorsports driven. And so it's become a lot more than just a hobby for me and for my family. But to me, it means fun. It really does. It just means good fun. And there's competition, and obviously there's times that are frustrating. I was frustrated after Nationals getting a flat tire, I'm not going to lie. So there are times that it's frustrating, and there's times where you're wondering why the car isn't running the way that it was the week before and that sort of thing. But that's just part of it. But it just means fun to me. And being able to spend time with my family, with my dad and my brother, and be able to do that together, it's real. It's just a lot of fun, and I enjoy it. And one of the old timers who was getting his awards at Dallas County the other night said, "I don't know what I'd be doing on Friday night if I wasn't at the track." And I kind of resonated with that. I was like, man, I don't know what I would do. I'm not going to go join a bowling team or something like that. It's just not who I am. And nothing against guys who bowl or anything like that. It's just not who I am. So I don't know what I'd do without my Friday nights, because that's where my fun is. And honestly, I thought about it yesterday. I was playing with my kids in the yard yesterday, and I thought, man, it's Friday night. We should be at the racetrack, and that sort of thing. And it's different when racing season shuts down, and obviously it's a busy season for my business and stuff like that. So we just make the best of it, and racing means fun to me, man.
Would you like to say anything for your sponsors out there, kind of help promote them a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, my dad with Day Enterprises, he does commercial fleet vehicles here in central Missouri, and really nationwide. People come and buy commercial vehicles from him often, and so he's my biggest financial supporter, and that sort of thing. And then obviously Icon Graphics and Apparel. We're located here in Lebanon, Missouri, and anything race related as far as wraps, we can wrap your car. We'll install them, we'll ship them, whatever you want to do. We do all of our design in house. We use good quality material, and we have a lot of repeat customers. And thankful for the opportunity that guys give us to help them with that. And their apparel as well. We do all of our apparel in-house. All of it's custom designed as well. And so we really have become a one-stop shop for racers. And so obviously Icon helps foot the bill a lot as well. Then my brother, Tuner Innovations by 20, you can check that out on Facebook. He's got several builds in the shop right now that he's doing specifically for the tuner cars. You can purchase parts and all kinds of stuff from him as well. And then Garrett Jacobson and his crew, Josh Barnes and the guys at TBG, and they're the ones who tune our computers, and thankful for their guys' help. Brad Chandler and the guys at Brad Built Parts specifically work with tuners and stuff like that. They helped us out a little bit this year. And then Patriot Lawn Care, here it's a local company to us and become as a veteran-owned company, and do a great job with lawn care and landscaping in our area. And so that's mainly my crew, and I appreciate each and every one of them. And obviously my wife, my kids, they go with me each and every week. And, when I told my wife, hey, we're going to do this dirt track thing, when I first took her, she was like, what in the world is this? But she's gotten behind it. Now she loves it, and she's the one pushing me to go race each and every week and helping me whenever I don't run really well and that sort of thing. So I got to thank her as well.
All right. Well, I think, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's all the questions I have for you. Again, this is Justin Day, your 5th place nationally ranked driver this year. Put on an amazing season. I look forward to seeing what you do next year, and hopefully I stay in contact with you and kind of get a little bit of race updates here and there from you.
Awesome. That would be great. I appreciate what you're doing. There needs to be more people out there. I'm a podcast guy, and I will be listening and that sort of thing, and checking out what you got going on. So I appreciate what you do for the sport and trying to bring more awareness to it and giving some of these guys a little bit of a platform to be able to tell about their racing and that sort of thing. That really is a lot of fun. And so if I can do anything for you down the road, please let me know. I'd be happy to help.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir.